today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a new quadcopter. To be exact, it's a 4S Cinewhoop. However, this is actually Skyzone. So Skyzone is trying to enter the quadcopter market, and they've even designed their own equipment or their own hardware components. So we're going to talk about this first entry of theirs into the Cinewhoop market and how my overall experience went, and everything you might want to know about this if you're planning on picking up one of these. So first of all, let's start with the specs here. For example, the weight here is 252 grams, as you see, with the propellers on, without a battery and without a battery strap. Now they've gone with this whole modular frame design, and it's a mix between plastic, injected molded plastic, which is a really great sign, and carbon fiber. Now, before we jump too deep into the frame design here, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other components. Now, for motors, they're using 1408 motors, 4000 kV. So this is a 4S Cinewhoop here, just to let you know. And on the inside, we're rocking a 20x20 flight controller, which is an F4 flight controller. And on the bottom, it has a separated ESC, which is really nice to see. It is also a 20x20 rated up to 20 amps here. Now, at first, I was kind of worried about such low amperage, but I'll get into why they went this route. I think it was a very clever way to kind of set this up. I mean, it's always better to have more amperage, but I kind of understand why they went that route, which we'll cover in a bit. And for the video transmitter, they say it goes over 300 milliwatts. Now, I've set it to 400 and flew it, and I can't really tell you how well it performed. It just performed good, but it wasn't really an environment to know how well that video transmitter performed. And if we take a look at the video transmitter part, or the antenna at least, not my favorite design, not my favorite type of antenna, neither it would be for a lot of other people. And if you're planning on replacing this antenna, it is an IPEX port on this video transmitter here. Now, if we move down to the camera, they're using a Foxeer Razor Nano here, which does the job just fine, and I believe it had good latency from my testing. So now let's go ahead and talk about the quadcopter itself. Now, I flew this in suboptimal conditions, which means it's basically winter season, and I was flying it on a -3°C day. And if you fly in that cold temperature, usually you get 1/3 of the flight time, or usually 1/3 to half of the flight time. So for example, if a quadcopter flies for 3 minutes on a battery, you'll either get 1.5 minutes or 1 minute of flight time. And that is to be expected in sub-zero temperatures, even temperatures close to 0°C. That is a well-known thing. Just batteries tend to not perform and die out much quicker, and there isn't that much energy for you to play around with due to the chemicals inside the lithium ion or lithium polymer or whatever you're using. So that's the case with this. However, what was really interesting is I was expecting to fly this for 1 minute. I ended up flying it for roughly 2.5 to 3 minutes. Now, I find that really interesting because that is on a 4S, and also it was a sub-0 degree day, and I was also punching out quite a lot. So that means it's somewhat efficient, but I really can't say how efficient. But from knowing that, I can tell you that I think it might fly a bit more than any other Cinewhoop I have tested to this day, which is also a nice thing. However, if we talk about the noise of this thing generates noise like a jet engine. It is super crazy loud. Like if you're flying this around somebody, they're gonna shit themselves. It's that loud. Now, if you care about the loudness of a quadcopter, but obviously, if you change out the propellers and try out different propellers, you'll get different sound profiles. But with the current setup as is, it's hella loud. Now, let's move on to the frame. Now, I really like something here. Now, I don't really like the plastic here, but it's fine as long as it's injected molded. So it is a hybrid frame. So we do have a separate bottom plate here, and we do have separate arms here. So well, 2 arms, basically. We have this part, and we also have the main body here, which takes 30x30, 20x20s. And it also takes another 20x20 in the back, so that's really nice. Now, they're marketing it as you can just pop this open, which I'll actually show you right now, and you could drop in a DJI module inside. However, it is somewhat misleading because you would expect you'd find some sort of a voltage regulator on the flight controller. However, that is not the case here. Now, it might fit a full-fledged DJI module in here, but you will still need to find some sort of voltage. Now, if you use the Caddx Vista, you could just give it the normal 4S voltage. But if you're using the full-fledged DJI module, you're going to have to come up with probably a small regulator that'll output 9 or 10 volts in order to get that working. So if we take a closer look again on the frame, especially in the top area here, we find that this is a plastic hybrid here. Now again, if you missed the weight, it's 252 grams, 253 grams, as is like this as you see it with a receiver. And what I really like is this modular design. I really want to see this more often where you can pop stuff up. There's plenty of space inside to do whatever you want here, and that's a nice thing to have. And not only that, they do have these really nice aluminum bridges acting as standoffs in a way to keep the overall structural integrity, or to keep it pretty rigid actually. And I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly pop some of this off. We do have pretty decent camera protection, but if you go with a different camera, you might not have that decent camera protection, so it's gonna be difficult for you to see, but it is somewhat protected here, which is nice to see. And you can see these aluminum bridges here. This is my, it doesn't come with a receiver, so I put that receiver there. You can see that bridge right there to keep the overall structural integrity, which is really nice. It felt very stable in the air. And if we look on the inside, this is really nice. Now, this is not my favorite design of the prop guards. I really like this foam. And the plastic is a really nice sign to see that they're not using 3D printed plastic. This is actual injected molded plastic. So your overall lifespan is going to be or a bit better than most of the other quad or Cinewhoops out there. But still, my favorite design into the whole duct area, but would be the most annoying to work on, is actually the flywheel variant. Because the flywheel, what they did is they have these carbon fiber slots that would go into this foam thing and would hold on the bottom and on the top of the frame. But you'd have to constantly align the whole top frame to put it on, which is really annoying. But the overall design of it felt much better, and I think it was a little bit light. Well, I can't really say I didn't fly the full-fledged one, I just had the frame, but I really like that design. But this is the second best design I would consider, because they're not using any of those 3D printed plastic bullshit. So this is a nice thing to see here, but it does increase I believe this type of style, and as you can see with the cutouts, do somewhat affect the noise signature. In my opinion, it's basically literally a jet engine flying in the air. It's crazy loud. Now, what I found out also pretty interesting about this setup is its wind resistance. Now, wind resistance is a big factor for me, especially with these, because you know, some of them with just the slightest wind you can't really fly. However, this one was carrying a full GoPro, a full 4S 1500 milliamp battery, and its wind resistance was actually quite spectacular. Now, it's nowhere near a 5-inch, quadcopter's wind resistance, if you might say, but it is good for a Cinewhoop. It is totally flyable. And also, I would consider this a speed demon of the Cinewhoop section or Cinewhoop class here, because it was actually pretty quick for a Cinewhoop. I was actually quite surprised that I was able to fly it that fast, which is always a really nice thing. And I really love this whole modular design here. And the overall execution is very clean. There's nothing for me to complain about, especially the ease of access for the USB Type-C. Now, you're going to see a lot of Atom RC products coming into play, and those are basically from Skyzone. The motors, I still don't know where they're manufacturing them from, but time will tell. I'll figure that out for you guys very soon, in probably an upcoming video, because I also do have another Dodo product, but it's not available on Banggood. It's available on another website. I forgot what it was called, which they sent me. It's kind of like a toothpick, and it flies pretty good. And we'll cover that in a later day. I mean, there's really nothing really to say much about them. They just fly like any other toothpick here. I think I used the wrong screw. Anyways, we'll come back to the screw later. So overall, this is a really nice quadcopter. Now, the price is up to you. You'd look at the price, see if that's good. I slightly think it's a bit overpriced, but that again comes back to you. I think all the injection molded, or the molds here for this stuff, was pretty expensive, and that's what raised up the price here. But the overall quality seems to be good. Durability, can't really answer that just yet. Also longevity, I can never really answer those unless I end up using it for a while and I create some sort of an update video. But as of now, if you purchase it, it's going to fly really great. It's going to be really fast. It's going to be very loud as well. So if I were to categorize this from 1 out of 10, I would give it a drone mesh score of 8, I believe. 8. So it is up there. But the price is really hindering it slightly here. But I kind of forgot what these usually go for. But overall, in my opinion, this is pretty nice. But you don't get any accessories, and you're going to have to end up designing or figuring something out for your GoPro mounts up here. So take that into consideration. So if you want a DJI, you need some sort of a regulator, unless you use a Caddx Vista. And you also need to find some sort of a 3D printed part that'll fit up here for the GoPro. And well, that's about it, guys. Everything's linked down below. I have a 7% coupon for you guys on anything RC related on Banggood. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.